Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast, and we are now going to be talking about the NBA championship, or should I say the NBA champions, that is the Denver Nuggets. It was 47 years since the dawning, if you will, or the closest that the Nuggets had really come to winning an NBA championship. And the Denver Nuggets finally hosted the Larry O'Brien Trophy. And they did so with a guy who was basically having the media against him, if you will, for all intents and purposes, the entire.
Oh, he still does.
And still does. And still does. But it was a team effort. And Brandon, like I was saying, and you were saying, it was this built, not bought mentality for this Denver Nuggets team over the years that helped propel them and help them win this particular championship, along with patience, of course, with Michael Malone and, of course, the Kroenke family. But before we get into the championship discussion that is the Denver Nuggets, Brandon, are you feeling like a champion today?
Today specifically, no. And I felt even less like a champion yesterday because during my witness of history when we won the championship, I ate something that I should not have, and I ended up with food poisoning. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. I did not feel like a champion, but you know what? If that's the price I had to pay for us to win our first ever title, I'll gladly pay it. But no, I do not feel like a champion, but I'm hyped.
I feel like it's the reverse. You're supposed to be puking your guts out before the actual championship game, not after.
Yeah, I did it the other way around.
Yeah, you did it the other way around. That's. But hey, you know, the Nuggets sacrificed it for you. That way you can at least get through the good parts first. Reminder to everybody that is again watching the Mainly Broncos stream on Twitter that you guys can certainly enjoy it. You can certainly enjoy listening to both Brandon and I babble, or I don't know, like go at it every once in a while, have these verbal debates, if you will, about who's truly better at Topgolf, Angry Birds, or whatnot. But I mean, if you want to hear,
I'm better at Angry Birds by far.
But if you guys feel like you guys want to chime in and maybe see about who is actually better at Angry Birds Topgolf, or who is the Denver Nuggets going forward now that they've won the NBA championship, or about those Denver Broncos, which we'll talk about in this show, head over to YouTube, click on that channel. That is the MHRT Network channel. Subscribe to the MHRT Network and go listen to the Mainly Broncos podcast. That is the title, which is the Denver Nuggets are world champions, and that is this show. So make sure you go do that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for hopping in with us. Brandon, you and I actually talked in Topgolf when we played. Like, it was Saturday before.
Ass at Angry Birds?
At Angry Birds, yes. He actually did beat me.
It's because I can apparently hit irons, but I can't hit my driver to save my life. Like,
see, disgusting. That's the one thing about Topgolf is that, like, it's like bowling for golf. So if you shank a golf ball, you still might actually end up with 40 points.
I couldn't even hit it. Like, it was so bad, which is weird because normally it's the other way around. Like, I can't hit irons, and I can at least, hit my driver. Even if it doesn't go straight, I can hit it, but I could not hit it on Saturday at all. I could hit my irons. So,
but yeah, so we were having this conversation, and you knew where I was going with it. Cause like you immediately cut me off cause you knew where I was going with it. But I felt like, when the Nuggets, when they lost game 2, that would at least help them. I didn't know whether or not they were going to win game 5, but I at least thought that they would be a little bit of a better showing. And to a certain extent, it was not the greatest showing in game 5. They definitely won the game, and they won the game that they needed to. But I will be completely honest, Brandon. You actually got the chance to watch game 2. I'd imagine, and I didn't because I was overseas. I was box score watching, if you will. But
Evening, Clayton.
yeah, evening, Clayton. Good to have you along tonight with us. You'll probably hear some more Denver Nuggets discussion, but that's okay. The Denver Nuggets are the NBA champions of the world, and nothing that anyone can say can take that away from us. The fact that the Denver Nuggets are NBA champions for the first time in their career. But Brandon, like I tell you, like it was a struggle bus. Like,
That was a very ugly game. I mean, I told myself I wouldn't bring it up anymore because it doesn't matter because we won. But that was one of the ugliest games I've ever witnessed.
and we won.
Just
Like,
straight up. Like we played better on the road in this series by a lot than we did at home, which is kind of horrifying to think about.
and it's crazy that they also pulled that game out. Like, so I mean, like, and that's the thing is like
That was
Like-
I don't even know I don't know what happened, but
like there
it was bad.
like that was probably, Brandon, maybe the one game where you can truly say maybe from start to finish, and maybe not start to finish, but like halfway through the fourth, that Miami had complete control of that game. Like Miami had complete control of that game, and then the Nuggets just started like whittling away and chipping at the lead. And then when they had the lead, they'd chip away for a few, and they would always stay within that like medium of like a 5-point lead or a 6-point lead. It would never get to be a 10-point lead, which would be super stressful for, I'm sure, every single person that was in Ball Arena, or even every single Nuggets fan that was watching that game on their TV screen.
I mean, we literally couldn't buy a three. It was ridiculous. I think we were like 3 of 24 at some point, or maybe even worse than that. It was horrific. I mean, one thing that just I'm interested to know about, although I'd have to go back and check on this. But basically, I wonder how much of this came down to nerves, in the sense that like so many of, I mean, there are some guys on this roster that have been to the NBA Finals before, and have won KCP, but a lot of these guys have never played on that kind of a stage before. And I mean, even those guys, like, yes, they had great games before this, like Jamal Murray showed out. Jokic, just like,
Aaron
I mean, he's just
Gordon.
always good. He can't really have a bad game, which is insane. Aaron Gordon definitely had some good games, but just like when it gets down to the wire, like it's literally like the last game, win and you're champions. I mean, in my mind, I would think that makes you even more motivated, but just like the nerves, I would imagine of going into that, just like being so terrified.
What?
I don't know how much that played into it, but I feel like it had to be something, because on the Heat side, I mean, this is where I want to go back and check, because they won fairly recently. I don't remember exactly what year that they won their last championship, and I think it was 2013. Okay, so I mean, like there were some players that were around that had won, a couple at least that were still on that roster. There were, but they were in the finals way more recently than that, and they had their guys actually had that experience of playing on that stage. So I don't know how much that played into it. Although I think when they were in the finals, that was in the bubble, so like it's a little bit different. But
Yeah.
Still, like there were the nerves that were going on in that building must have been ridiculous.
Well, and I gotta tell you, it's crazy when you think of a game like this, a game clinching game like this, and you have a player who has been struggling mightily all series long, who deserves his flowers for truly, and he was certainly struggling in his own right and shooting the three ball and shooting the basketball himself in the perimeter. But I will tell you right now that Michael Porter Jr. did everything he could to keep that freaking Game 5 afloat. And the dirty work and everything that he was doing on the glass, like he really did help keep that game afloat as best as he could. And he deserves his flowers for keeping that game, as close and as tight as it was.
When he made that 1-3 that he finally made, I think I cried. But no, I mean, he had 13 rebounds that game. That was actually ridiculous. Like he definitely played hard. And I don't remember exactly where I saw this. I think there was like a couple places where it's floating around, but you couldn't even tell. Like I literally looked for this and I couldn't visibly see it. But apparently he's been wearing this like large brace basically on his ankle that has something to do with like his back surgeries, I think.
Yeah.
It's like on his drop foot, which is like when he drops back to like shoot the foot that he lands on. Which like clearly was affecting him because he just did not look like himself this whole series and most of these playoffs. I mean, especially too in the Western Conference Finals. So it was definitely good to see him like make a bit of an impact. I think again, he probably thinks and wishes that he had maybe scored more. He did have 16 points though. Like he had 11 points in game 4, 16 points game 5, which kind of made up for like games 2 and 3. He literally did like almost nothing. But again, how much of that was maybe his injury and that brace? Like you never know. Yeah. Especially a guy who's so reliant on like his pull up shooting, especially from 3. Like you kind of need that. Just like health of that ankle to feel like you're even just mentally to feel like you trust it. So I don't know how much that played into it, maybe a decent amount, but he definitely had a pretty good game. 16 points, 13 rebounds. Good on you, Michael Porter.
And we're obviously not even going to bring up Nikola Jokic because obviously like he definitely seemed like he played a bad game, but I mean, it's still like what was 12 of 16 from the field. Like he was
points.
Yeah, but it's definitely one where it's like it
16 rebounds.
Yeah. It was just like when you kind of dig through it, it's like it was your typical Jokic performance. Like, and so like it's the efficiency and attack on the glass. Yeah, how you doing, Graham? But yeah, it's oh man,
you might regret it, but man, I was clinching the whole time, so maybe you don't regret it. It was
if
I think Graham, I grew like 5 gray hairs.
Graham, if you have NBA TV, I'm sure that they will be replaying Game 5 or the entire NBA Finals, should I say? I would imagine like a month long. I am actually a little bit perturbed though, like in a media sense. So obviously, for karma's sake, if you guys believe in karma or whatever, but it's just like to say that like at least it was fitting that the Denver Nuggets won an NBA championship in front of ESPN's eyes, right? Because obviously ESPN's eyes and owns ABC also owns like the ESPN rights, that kind of deal. So like it's basically like for ESPN. So they at least got the chance to see the Denver Nuggets as they are and as they are currently constructed. But part of
that pisses me off. I think I'm about to say what you're about to say, so you go first.
Yeah, but the thing that really annoys me is I actually want to go on YouTube or get the commentary from freaking Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley is killing it.
Who actually guaranteed that the Nuggets would win the championship. I want some actual post-game commentary from the man, the myth, legend, who actually prophesied that the Nuggets would win a championship.
I've become like so much of a Charles Barkley fan this season. That guy just like tells it like it is. I mean, maybe these other guys get these postcards of like, oh, you got to talk about this and you got to hate on the Nuggets because content, right? I don't know if that happens, although I wouldn't be surprised. But Charles Barkley's like, no, fuck that. These guys are good. Like
he was not taking any bait.
No, I'll have to go find it. Someone shared a video of it on Twitter. I don't know where it is. I saw it somewhere.
Yeah,
it's a montage of like all of his positive Nuggets takes throughout this season. And it's like incredible. Charles Barkley. I respect you. You even like you're better at golf than I am now, which is the bar is not high, but like I know that people ripped you for that. So you know what? I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Charles Barkley.
There were 2 different clips, but it was the same content where someone would Shaq or Ernie or Kenny were trying to like poke the bear, trying to get him to be like, are you sure that you want the Nuggets to be the world champions, and do you want to change your guarantee about the Nuggets like winning the NBA championship? And he's like, nuh-uh. Like twice. Like he
Mhm.
was so confident in the idea of the Nuggets winning the championship that it's just like. So I want some Charles Barkley commentary. It was great to get Kenny with NBA TV and stuff like that, but it's just like part of me was just like, I need it. Like I need it like I need oxygen. I need Charles Barkley to be commenting on this Denver Nuggets magical run, and it was certainly a magical run.
Well, did you see? It was Richard Jefferson who
Yes.
played with the Nuggets actually in his last year of his career, I think 2017, 2018. Basically came on, and this was hilarious because he was like, band's playing this to Kendrick Perkins too. Like, I hate Kendrick Perkins, but he basically comes on and he compares like a bunch of superstars, like their average stats on their first title.
Not necessarily comparing Jokic, but I know what you're. Yeah.
Well, and he was comparing Jokic because basically what he did was he comes in and he's like, let me see if I can go find the exact statistics, but basically he comes in and he's like, where the hell is it? He compares, the first thing he compares is points per game, which his comparison is Kevin Durant in his first title run. He averaged like 28, I think, 28 points per game.
And Jokic averaged 30.
Jokic averaged 30. And then he compares Magic Johnson, who had, I think it was like,
Wasn't it like 9.8?
I don't remember. Like, here we go. I found it. So he had Kevin Durant with the points. He had, okay, here we go. Where did it go? I went back too far. 9.4 assists, I think, from Magic Johnson. I think Jokic had like a 9.8 or something.
Yeah.
And then Tim Duncan on the glass with the rebounds, averaged 11.5. Jokic averaged 13.5. That's actually ridiculous. And then the one that like kind of blows my mind, although I will say there's a caveat to this, but Steph Curry's 3-point shooting, his first go round in the finals, he averaged 39.7. Jokic averaged 46.1. I mean, Steph Curry shoots it way more often from three, so like the volume is like you can't really compare that, but
it's an alarming number.
It's pretty ridiculous. Although I do feel fairly confident. Like Jokic is good at 3-point shots. Like if he had shot at the same volume that Curry shot at, I'm not saying he'd be better, but I feel like he would be fairly comparable. And then defense, although this one's kind of funny because like the way that it was described is it was better, but like it's technically worse. But Giannis's the opponent's field goal percentage when Giannis was covering was 39.7. Jokic's was 39.8, which technically is worse. Like it's a higher number, but it's worse because
it's also the same
percentage. But it's basically the same. Like this is probably the best postseason run ever, and no one wants to admit it because it's not sexy. Well, sucks for them because we just witnessed history, and the people that realize it get to appreciate what just happened.
We had this conversation on Sports Nonsense and Whiskey last night, and it's funny because when people, and I know you've seen this on Twitter, Brandon, I know you've seen it, but when people threw around that lazy take, which was the Denver Nuggets didn't have an all-time postseason run because they dominated everybody. It's like when you actually say a comment like that, you actually are truly admitting that it was an all-time run because they dominated everybody. Like that is the sole point of an all-time run is when you dominate everybody. And
well, you know what else is funny? We beat opponents who had a combined 85 career all-star appearances, which is the most in any title run ever. But no, we played what the seeding dictates because we're a number one seed. Just say that you don't know what seeding means and like how it works, because that's literally how it's designed to function. Or if you want to look at it another way, look at it like, we swept LeBron and AD. We beat the Suns, who I'm totally forgetting like they're superstars for some reason. I don't know why. But basically we're beating all of these players that like are the sexy names that everyone loves to say, like, oh, they're going to the finals, or oh, they're favorites all the time. But we beat them, or we swept them, or we almost swept them. Like we were 3 points away from sweeping the Heat. Can we talk about that for a second here? Because game 2 was I mean, honestly, we threw that game. Like, we could have played way better if we had played like with 15% more urgency on the defensive side. We win that game when we sweep the Heat in the finals. But all these people saying, "Oh, well, they beat all these play-in teams." Like, first of all, yeah, we beat the teams that were on our schedule because that's just how it goes, and we can't choose who we play. We also beat the teams that Miami beat. So, like, you want to see us beat Milwaukee? Well, Miami beat Milwaukee, so we couldn't. We beat the team that beat them.
We
And
even
yeah,
beat
I know they
Milwaukee.
didn't have Giannis, but like,
And we
whatever.
killed Milwaukee.
I know. It's insane.
No, I even brought up the point last night that was just like, and even in that run, when you talk about like it being boring, like stuff like that, it's like you also have to take into consideration that the teams that should have made the NBA Finals, that's not the Miami Heat, aka the Boston Celtics or the the Milwaukee Bucks, should have at least taken care of business. They didn't. And because of that, had the Miami Heat beaten the Denver Nuggets, they would be having the exact same conversation that the Denver Nuggets are having right now, which is about how dominant their finals run was. Because the Miami Heat's postseason run up until the Nuggets finals was pretty dang impressive, about as impressive as it was the Nuggets. Like, and so
oh yeah, Miami had absolutely no business being there at all.
Exactly. So, but the fact that once again the Denver Nuggets are not a glorified team, I guess, that people gravitate towards, they're going to not be the media darling team that people want to give them their flowers, and that's just the unfortunate thing. I mean, and you hope that now that they won the NBA championship, that's going to be the case. And it's nice to at least see people still be in that Denver Nuggets corner and really kind of puff their chest a little bit, like a Charles Barkley. We were joking earlier to a certain extent, or laughing earlier about Charles Barkley, but it's like Charles Barkley has been as big of a Denver Nuggets truther beyond just this season. Like, he's been a Denver Nuggets truther for quite a few years, the last few years under Michael Malone. And then you have especially a guy who really became a Denver Nuggets truther in JJ Redick.
Oh, I love JJ
Redick. This particular season, who's just been dropping truth bomb after truth bomb after truth bomb. And then Andy Bailey is another one of those guys on Twitter who truly has been like a Nikola Jokic truther from like day one. And Tim Legler of ESPN has been, I'd say, a Denver Nuggets truther, maybe since the midway point of this season or so. But it's just like, so there's people out there, but it's just like you hope that more people basically come to bat, for the Denver Nuggets. And so to see people like Jay Williams, kind of like really understand, like, okay, maybe there is something to this Denver Nuggets team, or the fact that Nikola Jokic, he actually might be the most offensively skilled big man the league has.
That's what Jay Williams said. Jay Williams picked him as his like, they had a segment of like basically who's the best offensive center in NBA history, and Jay Williams picked Jokic.
Yeah, and he didn't necessarily say he's the best center of all time, which is fair, because there are layers.
I think it was offensive based,
right? Because there's like layers to like how you want to choose who's the best, but it's like, I would not be surprised if a lot of people go with the Jokic route in terms of offensively skilled, because the way you look at it, it's as if you were to put Magic Johnson at guard almost and put it in a mixture of a few different bigger bodies, right? Like a Dirk Nowitzki or, maybe a Tim Duncan. Like, it's just like, it's an amalgamation of different players mixed in with a Magic Johnson. Then it makes the kind of play style special.
Well, the thing that pisses me off that, I mean, I can't have my cake and eat it too because we won, but I just wish that the ESPN people, and just like this nationally televised game, got to see what I honestly consider the true Nuggets, because that wasn't even the Nuggets playing at our best, not even remotely close. If they saw us playing, like, firing on all cylinders, there's literally nothing else that can be said. Like, they're just going to make fools out of themselves by saying anything even remotely close to what they did all season, because if we're knocking down those threes, Michael Porter Jr. looks more like himself. Jamal Murray, who still had like an amazing postseason run, like incredible, still had a great finals run. But like, I feel like he could have maybe turned it on a little bit more from deep, like he normally does. And I don't know, I just feel like if they had seen us truly at our best, and even though yes, against like a great Heat defense, but against any defense, when this offense is on, it's literally unstoppable. And I just wish that they had seen that, because it just like, it's almost like my revenge on them. Like, okay, talk shit all year. It's literally the graph of fuck around, find out.
Right.
I wanted them to find out more.
You know, it truly is like it truly felt like the scene from Infinity War. Knowing the fact that Thanos beat you the first time, meaning you know, that basically all the teams, if like Thanos was like all the teams before the Denver Nuggets in the bubble, like it was basically the scene from Infinity War, like of how okay, and so then now it got to Endgame, and the Denver Nuggets are facing those same teams to get to the NBA Finals again, and they eliminated every single one of them, and then they come out on top, and you know they're the NBA champions. So it almost felt like Infinity War mixed in with Endgame, all in one as a true plot line.
That's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite moments, though, just to go back to a somewhat positive note, Aaron Gordon just walking out of the stadium in his shorts and no t-shirt and just hanging out, just chilling with the Denverites in downtown, just like hanging out in cars and just like literally walking home in a mob of people. Please never leave Aaron Gordon. Like I know like this is clearly a very like, I'm not the first person to say this is just his thing now. Aaron Gordon is literally Mr. Nugget.
He had a mini parade before the big parade. Like
it's amazing.
And he just so happened to be like the focal point of that mini parade. But
he should be.
Yeah. But you know, I there was just some key moments within that game that were just some key turnarounds within that game. And Brandon, you know, we'll probably have some of the similarities here, but the one that really stands out to me is because we were speaking of Aaron Gordon, was his block.
You're gonna say what I said.
His block of Kyle Lowry.
But, you're not gonna say what I said.
But I was gonna say is that you know, I question the shot by Lowry, but the actual moment and what was going on and what happened in terms of him literally almost grabbing the basketball out of the air and coming down with it all in one motion was a pretty special moment. And at that moment, they were up 79-76. And then I think at that point was when Jokic hit the Sunbor floater to go up to a 5-point game, where in a game like that, every single point matters. And like, you know, and so it's just like every single bucket, every single possession is going to end up having to count. So, but that's was
what I thought happened when I saw that in real time. I literally thought he just like reached up and just like scooped it out of the air and pulled it in and caught it. Like that's what I thought he did when I first saw it, and I like was losing my mind.
So
that was one of the best like blocks I think I've ever seen. I will say, okay, not to be Debbie Downer and go back to the negative, but one of the biggest moments for me, and I know like it wasn't necessarily good, but just like the fact that foul called on Jimmy Butler's 3 then wasn't even like, the fact that they called it regardless is questionable, but then that it was upheld after review when he literally like kicked Aaron Gordon in the nuts, like mid jump, and he landed fine. They weren't even close to like, I saw people saying, oh, well, they got into like his ability to land. Like, no, they're literally standing there like 4 inches away with their hands in the air, not even touching him. And like, and then there's all the other stuff about, oh, well, he's turning. That's a natural move. Really? Because like his right foot is like straight over here, and his left foot is like this, like making a beeline for Aaron Gordon's crown jewels. Which like props to Aaron Gordon, because like damn, that could not have been fun.
No.
But just the fact that like that wasn't even overturned on review. I
Is
don't
that-
like being the person and the fan that just constantly brings up the refs, but like the NBA kind of has a problem.
Did that not give you to switch to the football side of it? Obviously, the Nuggets won, but like, did that not give you a little bit of some Broncos PTSD with the Cortland Sutton pass interference? Like,
Yeah,
yeah. So I
little
like,
bit.
I mean, could you imagine had the tables been turned on a play like that? Like, because like in a lot of ways, like the Denver Nuggets were, if you could think of maybe one of the biggest issues the Nuggets were having in this Heat series, it
Mhm.
was that they were undisciplined in the perimeter, in their perimeter defense, because
we
they
let
were
them take so many wide open threes.
because
It was
they were
ridiculous.
taking those threes, but also they were aggressive on the defense and fouling the shooters on a 3-point shot, and because of that,
Oh yeah,
and because of that, you know, they would result in those, 3-point free throws. But it's just like, so I mean, I probably get why Jimmy Butler probably decided for that shot, but it's just like, yeah, and then you get like a number of actual objective NBA fans on Twitter who were chiming in and posting on social media and stuff like that, saying they're going to review this. It needs to be called back. And frankly, if it comes back and it's overturned, they should call it an offensive foul, not a defensive foul, because of the fact that, you know, the guy, Jimmy Butler basically kicked Aaron Gordon, or I forget who else was there, but like, yeah, so like it should have been an offensive foul in that regard because of the fact he stuck his leg out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, okay. But to go back to a positive note, I would say like the one, I think it was like a minute and a half left in the game. It was like I was clinching so hard at this point. The Heat were winning by 1 point. Where like Jamal Murray tries to do one of his like almost borderline patented like mid-range turn jump shoot, like turn and shoot jump shots. And he misses, it goes off the rim. And then Aaron Gordon, which like, first of all, again, props to Aaron Gordon. Dude's like literally boxed out by 2 Heat defenders, and he's like bending over backwards, literally with his hand like behind his body, like trying to get the rebound. It was insane. And then Bruce Brown just like cuts in right underneath the basket, goes up and gets it and taps it in for a layup. And then we go back and take the lead. Like that, at that point, I was like, I breathed out slightly because like that was a great kind of turning point. But just like that was that ending was horrifying.
Yeah, that was actually my dad and I talked about that last night and tonight, and that was his favorite play, was the Bruce Brown cut to the basket rebound, and then it's funny, we're going in like time sequence right now, because my other favorite play was it was a bad pass, but it was the steal by KCP.
Still, damn it, that was my next one.
Yeah,
because that happened right afterwards.
Right, exactly. Was the steal by KCP to truly seal the game, and then get fouled, and then go to the free throw line. Yeah, which that's another part of the story, by the way. In Game 5 was the shooting on the free throw line.
Oh, it was so horrible. It was terrible. Like, we all turned into, again, Aaron Gordon, I respect you. We all turned into Aaron Gordon at the free throw line. Aaron Gordon cannot
shoot throws. Actually,
like, that's his thing. What?
We actually turned into DeAndre Jordan.
I don't know, man. DeAndre Jordan might be able to make more free throws than Aaron Gordon can.
Who, by the way, DeAndre Jordan actually had a pretty solid 2.5 minutes.
He played minutes in this game.
Yeah. So, whoever had that in their bingo card.
Dude, could you imagine if someone, like, I bet there was a bet out there that was like, will DeAndre Jordan actually play minutes in the NBA Finals? And someone bet on it and probably made like a killing. I could have bet $2 on it and probably made like 4,000%.
Man, knowing Matty, that'd be something like he could just call up like that. But like, I'd imagine, because like, and like in the betting world like that, there's like those weird little quirks like that, like those little weird betting things that you can bet on, right? Like, because that always happens in the Super Bowl. It's like, you can bet how long the national anthem is going to go, or
you can bet on the coin flip.
Yeah, Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised about that. All right. So transitioning a little bit post within this Denver Nuggets stuff. The parade is tomorrow. The parade is tomorrow. I'm really curious to see how big of a turnout this is going to be. I'd imagine it's going to be massive, but
Nuggets fans don't exist. Remember?
That's right. But I would imagine that you have, I would say roughly the exact same turnout with the Avalanche parade that happened last year. I don't know what the true comparison was, and I have to go look it up, but I think people did a comparison to like the Broncos 2015 parade and the Avs parade, and it was fairly similar in size, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhat smaller. I can't remember, but I would be curious to know, and especially with this being the first Denver Nuggets NBA championship, I'm curious to see the amount of fans that are going to in total be there.
Mm-hmm. That's probably going to be absolutely massive. I mean, any parade in Denver, like, even if the Rockies somehow won, which like is literally never going to happen, but like they're by far our worst team, probably the like least. Not that they have the smallest fan base, but just like at this point, very few people care about the Rockies like in a meaningful way.
They suck so bad, but they've
just done it to themselves.
They suck so bad, but they have a great field.
Yeah, if they won somehow, it would be insane. Like people would go crazy. Like there'd be looting. People would flip cars. There'd be a gigantic parade. It would be ridiculous. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be huge. I think anyone that's like, oh, Denver isn't a sports city, just okay. You've never come here, and you know what? Don't ever come here. Get out. Go away. But no, I mean, I unfortunately can't make it because I have to work and be an adult. But although I will say, like, not to get that onto that topic, but just the fact that there was still a large shooting the night that we won was
just it raises
tragic.
Your concern
just come
and
on.
raises your eyebrows.
Sure. Can we have one good thing?
Yeah, for sure. So, and obviously with the Denver Nuggets winning this championship, and of course with the all-time run, I felt like kind of posing this question, and this is a question that has not yet been posed on the appearances and shows so far on the network. But how does this, and every single championship run is different, Brandon. They've faced their different kind of adversity. And anybody that's in the chat and watching on the YouTube stream, I want to know what you guys feel. And anybody that's follows both Brandon and I on Twitter, hit us up, Brandon Miller PO, Cameron Parker PO on Twitter, because I'm really curious about this. Where does this all-time, playoff run for the Denver Nuggets rank with some of the other ones that's in Denver sports? So like the Broncos in the 2015 run, where does that compare for this Denver Nuggets 2022 to 2023 playoff run, if you will? Or the Colorado Avalanche 2022 playoff run, and so on and so forth. Where does this actually rank for you in terms of dominance and in terms of Denver sports championship history and for a playoff run? What about you, Brandon? It's
so
interesting.
It's hard. It's weird that you say that because, fun fact, this Nuggets team and the 2022 Colorado Avalanche team, which, like, first of all, Stan Kroenke, you are slaying it.
Just get us on TV.
Also,
just get us on TV.
Can we find a way for the Broncos to play in Ball Arena? Because everyone that plays that runs. Or can we put Christian Brown on the roster for just like, I don't even care, backup kicker, whatever. Like Christian Brown, all that guy does is win championships.
He's a little bit athletic, right? So probably put him at maybe slot receiver.
I don't want to have him injured, man. I want to give him back to the Nuggets in good health so we can go back to back. And anyway, but it's interesting to say that because, like, yeah, we both went the Nuggets this year and the Avs last year both went 16-4 in the playoffs, which is like kind of an insane. First of all, it's an insane record. Second of all, like what a coincidence. I feel like I didn't get to watch the entirety of the Avalanche run for a myriad of reasons. So like I don't know if I feel confident in that comparison. But I'm honestly going to say I think this is like one of the most impressive Denver sports championships runs in recent memory, because like you compare it to the 2015 Broncos, and yes, I mean the Broncos obviously won, but they were absolutely carried by their historic defense, and their offense did literally nothing. And this Nuggets team had a historic offense, but also had like, you know what? We had a pretty good defense, and no one wants to really talk about it. Jokic was very good on the defensive side of the ball. Everyone said that that's his like complete weakness, just because he doesn't go up and get insane blocks at the rim. That's like literally his only thing. Aaron Gordon is solid on defense. Michael Porter Jr. kind of stepped it up a little bit there this season. I'm going to say the Nuggets for me right now in recent memory, because I can't really compare it to championships that happened when I was, 3 years old.
Maybe we'll tweet it. Maybe we'll tweet
I'm
out.
going to say it's the Nuggets.
Yeah, maybe we'll tweet it out too from the Mainly Broncos Twitter handle. And if you guys aren't following that handle, make sure you guys are doing so, because maybe we'll tweet this out and just get a gauge from Broncos country, not Broncos nation, Mr. Van Gundy. Which, by the way, kudos to the greatest or one of the greatest quarterbacks in Denver Broncos history, Peyton Manning, being in attendance along with Russell Wilson and Ciara, and Eric Andre of all people was in Game 5. Like I just thought that was so funny. They're showing off all these like celebrities, and they're going Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson, and Ciara, and then Eric Andre. So it's just they're going off all of these guys, and they go Eric Andre. But for me, it's hard because like the thing that really kind of makes me want to say the 2022 Avs in this conversation. Dude, they beat the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, and they didn't.
Okay, that's fair. I forgot about that.
And they didn't just beat them; like they beat them pretty handily. So much so within that series, and it's just like, so like, and I don't know, like I think the 1999 Denver Broncos certainly, but also there's also the first Super Bowl as well. And you also have the 2015 Super Bowl, which was just a special run. But I don't know. I really feel like, and again, every team has certainly faced their kind of adversity, their kind of tumultuous season, almost at seizures, probably resulted in some seizures to a certain extent with the way the seasons have been going based on like, adversity and all the tumultuous stuff that they've, played. But the seasons that they've had, I can't imagine a more stressful media session for the 2022 Avs and the 2023 Denver Nuggets. Just everything that they've endured from the media side of things. And I mean that from like the media side of things, like can the Avs actually do it? Can they actually dethrone the Tampa Bay Lightning, or can they even keep up this pace? And the Nuggets no, they can't even do it at all. Can they keep this up? Like, so it was just like, there was always at least the doubt that was creeping in from the national media to the Broncos. It was like, simply in 1999, can they do it? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, can they do it? Can they go back, and can they win back to back? And then you go to the 2015 season, and because yes, there was, in air quotes, maybe some luck to their side, like it truly felt like every single game that happened in the regular season just got better and better and better. Every moment in the regular season got better and better and better. Even in the playoffs, it got better and better and better. So it's just like, I don't know. It's hard for me to say, but I truly feel like the 2022 Avs, though, I just felt like that was something.
The Avs got to be, like, again, I'm abstaining from that comparison because I didn't get to watch the whole run.
And we didn't even
that was a special run.
We didn't even bring up the 1995 Avs or 1996 Avs. Along with
that's another one of those. I was 1 year old,
or even the 2001, even like the 2001 Stanley Cup where they beat the New Jersey Devils. But I mean, yeah, it's a tough one. Now, I will say this: who had a more
recency bias came into my decision a little bit because it just happened.
At least we can admit recency bias, right? When other people say it on the national media scene, it comes across as pretty shady. See, we at least could like properly be like, we at least have an understanding of, okay, we're willing to at least call out recency bias for
I'm still riding that high. Like,
yeah.
I still can't believe that happened.
Now here's one. Who had a more dominant playoff run? Von Miller or Nikola Jokic?
In completely different sports, though? I'm going to have to say Nikola Jokic, only because he just had the best playoff run in NBA history. Although Von Miller, king.
Josh brings a really good point in. He said the Nuggets are heavily layered. It took the entire organization to buy into this plan that started way back in 14 and 15. And he said, get ready for the Golden State Warriors type run. I'm here for it.
Dude, I will be unbearable if that happens. Just fair warning.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to do that, though. Like, please
let me be it's worth noting, though, that like the way that the Nuggets are currently constructed is about the way that the Golden State Warriors, when they just started out, are about equally constructed. Because, like, again, we go back to the built not bought terminology. That's exactly the way the Golden State Warriors work. And even when they brought people in, like for instance, when they traded and they got the trader at the time, in air quotes, Andre Iguodala, he was a really solid Aaron Gordon kind of player at that moment in his career. Then he went and he joined the Golden State Warriors and really thrived with the Warriors. And then, you get the Nuggets and they make that kind of trade for an Aaron Gordon, and he really cements himself and he is growing within that organization and becoming a much better player with the Denver Nuggets. It's like the exact same storyline.
Also, this is an interesting point also from Josh, that there was an article in 2014, 2015 where the Nuggets front office was inspired by how the Warriors won it all by primarily the draft. I do not remember that, but I mean, definitely that's been their plan, and that's been their plan for a very long time. And they had the patience. So many teams in the NBA now, there is no patience. Patience doesn't exist in the NBA in the era of the super team. Like, oh, well, we're just going to sell the farm and get this other super player, and we're going to make the super team because if we put LeBron James with Anthony Davis, how can we not win? You get swept.
What though?
I mean, I'm here for it. Like, if we prove the super team's wrong by, just doing what we've been doing for the past, 6 years and keep building up this team and keep it with homegrown talent, maybe go in on the sides. And here's the thing though, because we supplemented the right way, right? You got the Bruce Browns, right? You got KCP, great addition. But those are more on the edges, right? The core of this team has been homegrown. And I don't really see that changing, because even after this championship, unfortunately, I still think Denver is going to be that place. I mean, like, again, do I think that it's increased a little bit? Yes. But I still think, just with the way the NBA works, and this is sad to say, but it's still not going to be one of those places of like, oh, well, everyone wants to be traded there because they want to be a super team. Well, you know what? Fine. Get traded somewhere else. We'll still beat you. But I just love to see. You love to see it. You love to see it.
It's really interesting that Josh brought up the fact that the Nuggets front office was inspired by the Warriors, because I don't know why I just thought of this just now, and I can't remember the exact playoff series, but do you remember the one playoff series? It was, I think, after the pathetic Lakers series. It was the pathetic Lakers series where we obviously won. We were in the Western Conference Finals, but we also played the Golden State Warriors a couple years later, and it was when Steph Curry was in the league, and he was just starting out, like he was a pretty young player, and the Nuggets were coming into that series, and a lot of people felt like they should have won that series against Golden State, but Golden State clearly proved to be the better team, and were playing at a pace and a system that was just something the Denver Nuggets never had seen before. In fact, I think it was that point in time where Andre Iguodala was with the Denver Nuggets, and that's when the next season or the season after, where Andre Iguodala ended up going to the Golden State Warriors. So I would not be surprised if it was at like that moment within that series, where the Nuggets were kind of taking a pretty hard look at, like, maybe we should start kind of building this in the same vein as the Golden State Warriors.
I mean, just be careful who you hear you say that, because you're gonna light the fires. But I mean,
I already did.
I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see what happens, because, like, you're right in just kind of the timing of how everything worked out. But the Golden State Warriors, again, it's just like, I feels like that's just one of those teams that, like, because it's Golden State, they're just going to get that love all the time. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, yeah, they built it up in the draft, but because they're just because of who they are and the team they are and where they're located, everyone's going to lay the hype on them, right? And the Nuggets can go back to back next year and still probably not be the underdogs. You know what? I'm happy with it. I'll take it. But can keep underestimating us and see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where we go from here, because the way we built this team, it also just kind of makes it the longevity stick around a little bit more. I mean, like, Bruce Brown might be not coming back, right? That's like really the only player. But
you can also,
he could, like, it's a player option,
right? And the Nuggets can also probably even give him a raise with that, like, and so. And I think that's the thing. Like, if you were to compare the 2022 Avs to the 2023 Nuggets in that regard, the 2022 Avs had a decision to make with their free agents. Like, they basically had to choose Nazem Kadri or Valerie Nichushkin and choose which one they wanted to sign. And they went with Nichushkin, and sadly, Kadri had to go sign with the Calgary Flames. Here, truly, I mean, you would probably want to upgrade or, bring on some more veterans, because you're probably going to lose some. Like, you may lose, Ish Smith, and, I don't know about KCP just yet, but I mean, you may lose Jeff Green, maybe. My name's Jeff.
Retire.
He said he wants to play till he is like 47. Kudos to you, bro. But I mean, Father Time's going to catch up with you eventually.
I mean, if you play as little as he does, maybe he might get there. Nothing against Jeff Green. I love Jeff Green, but yeah, the only way you're playing until you're 47 is you're coming off the bench for like 10 minutes, maybe.
But the thing is, though, like you said it, like, the Nuggets really only have like one huge decision to make, and that is, can we afford, or can we choose to keep Bruce Brown? And
well, they can't even choose it. He chooses it.
True. Yeah, it's a player option.
It's like they have to decide how much can we write on this check to him and get him to stay.
So I want to continue this theme of recency bias, because it's at least it's in the national media now, it's in the national waves now, and it's probably even starting to work its way into the Denver podcasts as such, with Denver, the DMV Nuggets, and that's something that they touched on a little bit, and it's at least worth having this conversation. We did talk about it briefly in the sense of Nikola Jokic being the most skilled offensive big man. Now, where does he rank in terms of we can try and at least look at this objectively, Brandon, but where is he in terms of like the current all-time list? If you were to kind of look at all the centers, the way things are currently constructed.
Centers
Mm-hmm.
alone?
Because
I gotta pull up a list because like this is gonna be challenging.
Because because for me, I truly like, because there's different ways in how you want to define dominance. There's different ways on how you want to define dominance. And you can dominate the game in complete and utter fashion in your own style and so on and so forth like that. But like Nikola Jokic, he's not Shaquille O'Neal. However, like Shaquille O'Neal is the most physical, like a physical and dominant center maybe the league has ever seen. But Nikola Jokic is dominant in the form of his offensive post game, along with his playmaking his post moves, and the ability to help others and create opportunities for others with how he can create passing lanes for people or passing lanes and shooting lanes, I should say, for other players. So,
So
and then you have Akeem Olajuwon, right? Like defensive side of things, or even a Karl Malone. So,
Malone. You mean Moses Malone?
oh yeah.
It's like, bro. Hold on, back up for a minute there. So speaking of Moses Malone, that's kind of where my line in the sand here is being drawn with Jokic, and I can't decide if I want to put him above or below Moses Malone.
Or even
I'm going to say 7. I'm going to say Jokic is 7 right now. 7th all time. So Jokic, Moses Malone. And then from here on, it's like, honestly, whatever order you want to put him in is fine. But then you got Olajuwon, Shaq, Bill Russell, Chamberlain,
yeah.
Abdul-Jabbar, right? I mean, I'm putting him at 7 for now. Could he surpass Moses Malone? Absolutely.
What
Could
does
he
he have to do?
surpass Olajuwon? Probably. I mean, we'll see. He's only 28. What does he have to do?
See, that's the thing is, like,
I don't know. That's why this is so hard to do when like a player is only 28 years old. It's hard to have this conversation because like I'm comparing what Moses Malone did in his entire career to what Jokic has done in like the first half of his career,
right.
maybe,
Or
right?
even like,
Which
yeah.
in that case, like if he even is like on a pace to be like, let's say he only, okay, let me tell you this. What if this is his only championship win in his career? I mean, I know that's a massive what if.
Yeah.
And I will be incredibly sad, but like, that's where, that's like the only way you can start to look at this and think like that you have some opinion on where you're going to put him in an all-time list. Because what if this is like one of 4 championships in his career? He's only 20 years old. You never know. But I'm gonna say he's at 7 for me right now. Who knows where he's gonna end up in totality?
The thing that's just I just don't know if I've ever seen truly someone as skilled and gifted, excuse me, as Jokic. And the thing that I just was so impressed with in this particular postseason, and this is something where you saw him really ratchet it up and become a much better player. And it wasn't just Nikola Jokic, but it was oh, by the way, yes, we can at least definitely say that he is better than Joel Embiid
But there's that one game where Joel Embiid scored 47
in a regular season game.
In one regular season game.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw a statistic that says Jokic has more triple doubles this postseason than Embiid has his entire career.
Why do I feel like this is just a souped up version of Von Miller versus Khalil Mack?
Kinda, yeah. A little bit.
I mean, like, I've been kind of thinking about that, and the only thing that
But just like but the NBA thrives on drama, so that's why it's so souped up. Because even with the Von Miller, Khalil Mack discussion, like that was going on when Khalil Mack was a Raider. Like you had the positional rivalry, but then you had like just the fan base rivalry of the Broncos and the Raiders, which like, God, I hate the Raiders with every fiber of my being. And the fact that Khalil Mack was on the Raiders, like, and then he was on the Chargers. I'm obviously going to pick Von Miller in every possible way, and like not only because I'm a fan, but also because I just believe that Von Miller was better. But you go to the NBA, and it's just like everything's cranked up to 13 because all they care about is the drama and the storylines, and what's sexy, right? Because Joel Embiid can go up for a dunk and break the backboard, but just because he could do that suddenly he's the better player, like that's bullshit.
It's just amazing to me how people can just gravitate to this idea that a player is better than a player who really had maybe the greatest postseason playoff run performance-wise as a big man and had as dominant a postseason run with triple doubles more than Russell Westbrook ever did. Like if you guys even think back to like the Russell Westbrook season where he was, to some people's credit, notified as Mr. Triple Double. Nikola Jokic,
Nikola Jokic is Mr. Triple Double.
Yeah, he's truly Mr. Triple Double. So, but yeah, so I just, it's something that you definitely have to just sit back and just enjoy. You like these conversations, but you certainly have to kind of pick and choose when to table it, and I think we'll table it.
Joel Embiid has 5 career triple doubles. Jokic has 29 this season.
The other
that's disgusting.
The other reason why I think people need to understand that Nikola Jokic is better than Joel Embiid is that one, Nikola Jokic doesn't cry his way to an MVP.
Nikola Jokic doesn't set up an interview with Sham and then slam his opponent the whole time.
Right. Or he doesn't take to the podium after a big loss in the postseason and just basically throw, except for him and Harden, the rest of the team under the bus. So, I mean, there's that. Nikola Jokic isn't going to do that. So,
no. Where are you putting him?
Who?
You didn't put him on your top. Yeah, would you put him on the top? Your top 10?
I think he's probably, call it biased, but I will probably put him within like 4 or 5 right now.
All right.
Just because I think that like this is also
so you're putting him potentially above, and I'm not even disagreeing with you, but you would put him above. Like, would you put him above Olajuwon? Because that's like the only player on here that like I can look at this list and feel even remotely okay disturbing that part of the list right now. Because above that you got Shaq, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like,
so
I'm not saying Jokic isn't going to get there because I think he is. And you know what? I'm not even disagreeing with you if you said you would put him above Olajuwon. I'm just like straight up asking you, would you replace Hakeem Olajuwon with Nikola Jokic right now?
The thing is so that you would probably maybe want to keep Olajuwon above Jokic is Hakeem the Dream. It has one more NBA championship, and he has one more NBA Finals MVP to his name. And if you want,
he has one less overall MVP, although he also has 2-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Right. So I don't know. But I just feel like with Jokic, mine is also projection in that.
Projection. There is no limit. The limit does not exist.
But my point is
he could end up as 1.
But my point is that I just can't see this type of style with the way Jokic plays ever ending.
Well, the thing with Jokic, with the way that Jokic plays the game, and like this is what's so funny to me about all those people that are like, oh well, because it's not sexy, because it's not the way that Joel Embiid plays the game. He's not this like physically dominant beast. Well, you know what? Joel Embiid can only play like that for so long. He's only going to play like that until he's like, what, 33 maybe. I mean,
And
I know like LeBron is obviously,
let's not forget he was injured in the early part of his career too.
does whatever it is that Tom Brady does, sucks the blood out of children. But Jokic's game ages incredibly well. Like he could be doing this stuff at 36 or more, higher.
That's why I tell you. I wasn't making the comparison from this player to this player in different sports, but it's one of the reasons why I compare Nikola Jokic to, in a sense, of Tom Brady, because like Tom Brady, when he came into the NFL in the NFL Combine, he was a weird looking dude. Everybody was wondering what was going on, like who is this kid from Michigan? And he replaces Drew Bledsoe, and he does these quirky things in his own style. And Nikola Jokic
That's actually a pretty good comparison.
And then you have like Nikola Jokic, who's the quirky dude. Like he's like the really, really like athletic fat guy in a pickup game that you can try your hardest to guard, but he'll do a behind the back pass, and all of a sudden you're like, what the crap just happened? And the guy will shoot the three that after he did the behind the back pass, or then he'll do this like ridiculous spin move, and he makes the on the block shot or whatever. Like that's basically Nikola Jokic, and he's just he does what he wants, and he does what he wants at a very frequent and efficient pace. It's just like.
But was Tom Brady drafted during a Quesarito commercial?
No, and
they should bring back a Quesarito just because we won.
Do like a second mascot that's a Quesarito. And then have it be like a sponsor for or the new Casa Bonita. The new Casa Bonita.
Oh no. They're trying to have a reputation of good food, Cameron. They already have so much to live up to.
They hired they hired 5-star chef.
I know. They hired a what was it, James Beard?
They hired him?
Chef. I don't even know. No, it's not a James Beard award chef. James Beard is dead. He's been dead for like
but yeah,
20, 30 years. I don't even know what that means, but you know what? I'm still gonna go and try it out because it's Casa Bonita. I can't not do it.
About the experience. But
anyway, I mean, again, if he continues on this pace, who knows? He could end up number one. It's just so hard for me to do it, but I'm comparing like, again, what could literally be half of his career with another Hall of Fame player's full career. But if you look at them and you're comparing them just to see what Jokic has done in such a short little time, it's like actually remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially the pace that he is now starting to enter his prime is scary.
He needs that one untouchable stat to cement himself as king. All right. What do you think that would be? Because if I'm a betting man, I'm saying it's probably maybe like assists. That might be his thing. Because like you go back and look, and obviously like the game was different. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 22.9 rebounds a game. That's ridiculous. I don't think that's being touched anytime soon. Bill Russell averaged 22. Like that's actually just ridiculous. But I mean, yeah, we'll see. I mean, could Jokic end up with the most triple doubles ever? I think he absolutely can.
Yeah,
easily.
Now, what would be interesting is if it ever happens at the frequent rate that we saw the last two seasons, it might get to the point.
Let's just see where it is right now.
Like it might actually get to the point, depending on where it is. Yeah, it might actually get to the point where, you're looking at it from the standpoint of, like, I don't know, maybe Jokic entering the point where if he does achieve as much triple doubles as he can, it'll be hard to pass. Like it'll be hard to pass. And that's just all, of course, on his current pace that he's on right now.
So, assuming my math is correct, Jokic is now 4th all-time in career triple-doubles. Jeez. He passed LeBron James this season.
Oh, who? Who did he pass?
LaFlop.
LaFraud? LaFraud James.
The flop, James.
LaFraud James, the actor from the Space Jam 2, which is not about a legacy. It's going to be exciting, though. It's going to be an exciting thing to watch, and we will certainly see if the Denver Nuggets can repeat. And let's touch on the Broncos at least just a little bit here to kind of wrap up the show. They made some moves. They went out and signed Frank Clark last week. Great.
I hate this move. Straight up.
You don't like it? You really don't like the move? Is it
Frank Clark should be in prison? I mean, if I'm looking at it strictly strictly football, I'm literally I'm looking at basketball on this monitor, so I'm looking at basketball.
We also talked for about an hour.
I know. If I'm looking at strictly football, is my opinion maybe a little bit different? Sure, but I can't. I literally cannot look at this from an only basketball perspective, because if you read the police report of that time that police were called to his house for a domestic assault, it's chilling.
Yeah.
And I know I'm pretty sure he wasn't actually charged officially, but just I can't. If I'm looking at it, or if we're talking about it in the football sense, do I think it makes sense? Sure. We needed more pressure from the defense, from just against the quarterback. We needed more there, especially since Baron Browning is going to be starting this year on the PUP list, which kind of sucks, to be honest. I really wanted to see what he was going to do in this defense. I'm interested to see what Vance Joseph does with this defense, because he's back now. But do I think in a vacuum it makes sense? Sure. Do I like the signing because of who Frank Clark is as a person? Absolutely not.
In a football sense, I really do like the move. I think that he adds a lot to the room, and if the Broncos can certainly reach the postseason, he adds the productivity and the production to basically be a sack producer, a QB hits, the pressures. He can be that type of player in the postseason, because clearly it shows that he's played at a high level when he's in the postseason. In the regular season, there's a little bit of some different numbers there. But I mean,
he's also pretty good against the run.
Yeah. But I also like the idea of, here's this idea of two pretty decent players that are really good against the run. Actually, Gregory's great against the run. Gregory is actually our best pass rusher. He just can't stay on the field. And so we desperately need a healthy season from Randy Gregory, by all means necessary. And really from every single member of the Broncos, we need a healthy season. But by the way, this is a side note on Randy Gregory. The new health and wellness regime, and the new the training staff and everything that's being instituted by Peyton. The front of the line stuff that he has now coined, right? That he's brought on. If there's one person that you can say who's going to benefit from all of that, it's Randy Gregory, and that should make Bronco fans at least pretty happy. Is that if Sean Payton was able to bring in a front of the line player like that, or system and organization like that, to the Denver Broncos, it should truly help out that that room, that injured and plagued room, led by Randy Gregory and a bunch of others. But yeah, so of course there are running back news, and we've touched that ad nauseum. But I'm excited. I will say, to the Baron Browning news, I'm a little bit sketchy and hesitant with the whole Baron Browning news. I like the idea that they'll kind of wait and see, and if he's going to begin the league on the PUP list. I actually would foresee a situation. We talked about it with Amir on Broncos Avenue on 5280 yesterday, and I really think it's wise at this point, given his knee and with where things are at, rest him, don't play him in the preseason, and see where things are certainly at with that knee, and then play Frank Clark for those, a couple games, 2-3 games into the regular season. Now, at that point, you may be talking about a completely different Frank Clark because maybe he's playing at a pretty high clip. He's productive, and so at that point, you're talking more about him being a starter than a role player. And then you're talking about Baron Browning being eased a little bit more into it, and so it's the case of you want to make sure you're playing the hot hand. So, but I'm a little bit sketchy in terms of the knee injury specifically for Browning, given his bend, the Von Miller bend, right? Because he truly is like a kind of player that almost feels like a Von Miller incarnate the way he is as a player. So the knee and the bend that he has as a pass rusher worries me a bit with that arthroscopic knee surgery.
Yeah, definitely not good. I mean, it's Nick Bonito time to step up, basically, is what that's telling me right now, because he definitely has an opportunity here if he can come out and be the kind of player that I'm sure we were hoping that he would be when we drafted him at the top of the second round last year. It could be special. But looking at this defense, I mean, if Baron Browning's not around. Although, also, do you maybe see like Jonathan Cooper? I know he's kind of more
Drew Sanders,
the other side of the that defensive line, but he could maybe play there. Drew Sanders for sure. I mean, obviously rookie, but he has a little bit of an opportunity. But looking at the front of this defense, I mean, Frank Clark, DJ Jones, Zach Allen, Baron Browning. I know he's going to be starting the PUP list, but Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Drew Sanders, Randy Gregory, like this is
Christopher Allen.
This defensive front could be really good. I mean, I feel like we've kind of been saying that when we got Randy Gregory, this kind of was like the case. If he could stay on the field, it'd be really good. But I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about this defense. I just want to see. I want to see how it comes together because, like, Maury Mathis, if he keeps doing what he was doing at the end of the season, Kareem Jackson obviously brought back Caden Stearns. I want him to play more snaps. We all know what he can do. Justin Simmons literally don't need to say anything. Pat Surtain speaks for himself. Like this defense could be special.
And it's what goes without saying, but this is the best defensive line, best defense Vance Joseph has ever had. Of all the teams that he's had. Maybe as far as a defense and the way it's currently constructed, it's a much better defense than what he had with the Denver Broncos. Now it was a pretty good defense. It was good defense.
It was more top heavy when he was with Denver. His defense,
right? This is some pretty decent depth now across the board, and the biggest separator of it all, he actually has a shutdown corner on his defense. He didn't exactly have a shutdown corner, to a certain extent, in his time with the Denver Broncos, to be completely honest. And I think at that point, I think you were getting an aging Chris Harris Jr., right? And
I think it was Chris Harris's last year with us.
Yeah, so you were kind of like getting to that end of the line with Chris Harris Jr. And so for this, like you're getting Pat Surtain at the beginning and prime years for Pat Surtain. So like you're talking something that, he didn't have, in Denver. And so you have a lot more structure and pieces to work with, I think, in this kind of defense to do what you can athletically. And, he's got a player that he is also comfortable with in Zach Allen. And he loves Zach Allen. So,
he had Aqib Talib too, though, when he was here. But I mean, Aqib Talib was 31. So
yeah. One of the things that was touched on, and speaking of Vance Joseph, and it's worth pointing out, is something that it was the first time, if I'm not mistaken, Vance Joseph met with the media today, and he did talk about his experience in his time in Denver. And for any Bronco fan that is listening, and it's important to remember that he has no ill will to the city of Denver, its fans. He still has a home in Denver, and anybody who never watched the Hard Knocks series, who didn't watch the Hard Knocks series with Arizona during the regular season, you will get a glimpse of Zach Allen, the player and the person, and the person that was being trained under J.J. Watt. So that's one reason to watch it. And two, you get to see the side of Vance Joseph that I think maybe a lot of Bronco fans, to a certain extent, didn't get that chance and get that opportunity to truly see with, say, the players. Because, like, that was the thing that was always said, right, Brandon? Was like the players loved Vance Joseph. They just could never work out as long as it did. And so it's just like it was a case where, because of the way things happened on the field, that was truly the reason why Vance Joseph was gone. It had nothing to do with he lost the locker room or anything like that. It was just he just could never meet the expectations of where things were going. But there's no ill
Vance
will.
even said himself, like, he knows it wasn't personal. He was let go because he didn't win.
So it's just something to remember to anybody that is.
You also hear about that he heard from Wade Phillips, actually, after he came back. And Wade Phillips basically reminded him, like, hey, I was the head coach in Denver and I got fired because I didn't win. And then I came back as defensive coordinator and I won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Vance can do that. I'm beyond happy with him.
Yeah, and he clearly loves, as we said, he clearly loves the state of Colorado. So, I think it's safe to say, no matter what, when he is living in Colorado, he is having what, Brandon?
The time of his life.
He is having the time of his life. What is this? Is that going to be one of the most overused jokes with Vance Joseph in 2023?
Probably.
Yeah,
probably.
We should probably mute the time of his life Broncos, like, all in one once the regular season comes. So
I can see it now. You know, Surtain gets a pick six. Oh, Vance Joseph is having the time of his life. We give up a huge play. He's not having the time of his life.
or there's the other stuff. We're kidding, by the way, obviously, but it's just like, and then there was always the other calling cards for Vance Joseph's year was Jake Butt. Jake Butt is tall. Like when he was like describing a player, Paxton Lynch, oh, he's tall. He's really tall.
I'm just waiting for that first good week of practice.
That's right, first good week of practice. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to it. Joe Lombardi also met with the team today, and I want to say it was Kawaka, the special teams coach, the guy who served in the military and flew an Apache helicopter. So basically, Quadica, I think is his name. Quadica and Westhoff are basically going to be leading your special teams unit. And he actually Sean Payton talked extensively about the importance of special teams today. And he specifically mentioned about Westhoff. And he even explained special teams in complete detail. Like, he even went on and he explained how he hired Chris Banjo. And he basically was like going through, and he was like going through his phone, and he was like trying to think of players or people to reach out to, and he came across Chris Banjo's name or something like that, and then he remembered that he used to play for him, and he used to recently play for him, and then he checked to see if he was in his phone, checked to see if he was in his contacts, and then he called him and literally found out that that they had mutual interest, and then the rest is history. And I guess Davis Webb didn't meet with the media, but he did get a chance to speak with some people today. So all intents and purposes, this was the first time for a tight-lipped, as Josh says here, a tight lip, and a tight lip and tight knit locker room, this was the first time, I think, if I'm not mistaken, where we got to hear anything from the new staff members. Like the first time we heard from Joe Lombardi, the first time we've heard from Vance Joseph meeting the media.
Well, other than their introductory conference.
Yeah, I don't even think they had any introductory press conferences.
I think Joe Lombardi did.
I
might be wrong.
Because I know Vance Joseph didn't.
I know Vance Joseph didn't.
But yeah, so if you guys want to go back and you guys can watch that, you actually can go back to the Denver Broncos YouTube channel, or you guys can go back to their Twitter account and go to their, I want to say it's like their broadcast lives or something like that. And so they play the individual interviews from those coaches. So thank you guys so much for hopping on with us and getting a chance to talk about those Golden Nuggets and the golden era that is the Denver Nuggets. To quote the DNVR Nuggets crew, the golden era of the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are NBA champions, the first in their illustrious career as a franchise. Hopefully, they have many more to stack in their trophy case for many years to come. Thank you to Josh and to Sports Nonsense and Whiskey, to Jorge, and many others that contributed to the Mainly Broncos show. To all who have liked, subscribed to the Mainly Broncos on the MHRT network, thank you guys so much. We want to appreciate you guys, and if you guys want to click the follow button of the Mainly Broncos Twitter handle, make sure you do so. It is at Mainly Broncos. The Twitter handles for both myself and Brandon are as seen on the screen. I am at Cameron Parker PO, and Brandon Miller PO, of course, is the man, the myth, the legend, and that is Brandon Miller, not the very successful basketball player or soon-to-be basketball player that could be the number 2 or number 3 overall pick in the upcoming NBA draft. So no correlation. No. But anyway, thank you guys so much for hopping in with us. We hope to talk to you guys soon. And if you guys are going to the parade tomorrow, stay safe out there. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything crazy. Don't do anything that me or Brandon wouldn't do, which would be maybe, have like a sword fight with golf clubs or something like that. If one loses to someone in Top Golf Angry Birds or something like that, don't do that. Don't do that. But just don't do anything stupid. If you guys are out there on the parade, stay safe, stay cozy, and enjoy a bit of piece of Nuggets history. Thank you guys so much for enjoying the Mainly Broncos podcast, and we are out.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till